He had a cooked breakfast there in his flat. Wide-eyed yolks of fried eggs and beans and canned sloppy tomatoes. He ate the meal, sitting cross-legged on a table so he could still see out of the window and watch the commuters going by with the hundreds of hurried legs to the subways and buses and cars. Then he went to his study, his chamber at the end of the corridor. He flicked a switch and the box room was lit up with strip lights. Brandon knelt on a green mat in the middle and rested his palms on his thighs and looked up. The room was filled with shelf upon shelf of running shoes that stretched up towards the ceiling. They covered every wall, front, side and back. Every trainer pointed outwards to the nub that was turned in on him. There were running shoes from the past 2 decades, from the flimsy plimsoll design of the early 80s to the laceless designer slip-ons of the last few years. The discerning eye could acknowledge the range from Clarks to Nike, Reebok and Adidas, right through to Stride and Acupuncture, Fly and Spider. But it would have to be the discerning eye, for there were no labels to mark their origin. Every insignia had been carefully picked away, leaving only the odd needle indenture as a sign of their passing. Brandon took off the trainers he was wearing and carefully prodded away the backward red tip from their side with the point of a needle and put the unlabelled shoes on a gap on one of the shelves, facing out. He returned to his foam mat, kneeling, palms on thighs, and closed his eyes. In the perfect stillness, he imagined he was running faster than he had ever run before. The strip lights fizzed and buzzed. He imagined cool rain. Brandon left the room and padded to the hallway in his socks. It was dark outside, the streetlights were on. He felt down to his feet. "New shoes," he said, as if trying to conjure some kind of feet salve. He climbed onto a table next to the window and hunched his body into a sprinter's crouch. He looked out as the moon silhouetted him like a wolf. "New shoes," he said. "New shoes." He howled, sweet and loud and feral. He dropped his head and watched some joggers run along the pavement opposite the flat, chatting and laughing, and then disappearing beyond the frame of the window. He climbed down from the table, locked the door of the flat, went out into the street, and then began to run, as fast as his short, socked, shoeless feet would allow, faster and faster along the road, until he caught up with the leggy joggers. He focused on the one at the back of this pack, gauging his prey like a runt carnivore, keeping to the shadows. The jogger at the back began to fall behind as he fiddled with his personal stereo. Brandon took his chance and jumped at this jogger's arcing foot, grabbing hold of the beautiful new white trainer. The jogger screamed and continued to hop forward on one foot as Brandon was dragged along on the other, desperately trying to pull off the running shoe. The jogger's personal stereo played "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" as Brandon bounced up and down on the tarmac. And then the jogger pulled his foot and his trainer free, ditched the personal stereo, and left Brandon shoeless on the floor. The stereo continued to play muffled through its headphones. He found himself outside a nightclub with a shaven 6-foot bouncer at the door. The bouncer walked over. "I'd piss off before I show you some real violence." "Raindrops keep falling on my head," played the personal stereo. Brandon bent into his sprinter's crouch and made the frame of his face with his arms. "Kick me in the head," he said, "and then I will be good." "If that's the way you want it." The bouncer began his kick and lifted his foot back. Time slowed down and Brandon watched as the strobed frames of the shoe's movement came towards him. It was a black leather shoe with thin, black, neatly tied laces. The frame jumped. The shoe's cut was sharp, the sole was beige. Frame jump. There was an imprint on the sole. Oil, fat, acid, petrol, alkali, resistant, frame jump. He read the print just below the heel. Made in England. The shoe arrived a centimetre away from Brandon's forehead, and he reached up suddenly to grab it and then pushed it away. The bouncer fell backwards, his domed head hitting the curb, so he blacked out. The sound of DJs scratching records came from the club as Brandon pulled off the bouncer's shoes. He put them on his own feet. He took a penknife from his pocket and scored a jagged backward tick on the side of each shoe, his own branding. The sound of the scratching records mixed with the personal stereo's static as he sprinted past the club, his feet dragging and slopping in the big, black, scratched shoes. Raindrops, raindrops, raindrops keep falling on my head. He ran into the night and imagined the hiss of rain cool on his skin. Thank you. That's the end of that story.